What's going on, guys? Thanks for stopping in. If this video is at all informative to you, a thumbs up is an easy way to show it. So we got Duane Brown still in the building, in the area, visiting with Jets brass. Continuing today, hopefully we can announce a deal within the next 48 hours here. Now, giving my quick notes on it yesterday, learned a little bit since then, and I think there's a lot of signs pointing to this deal getting done and Duane Brown becoming a Jet rather shortly. So for those of you who didn't know, he was at the green and white scrimmage yesterday on the sideline. He was talking it up with Rex Hogan and Joe Douglas for a while. He met Woody Johnson. He talked to Coach Saleh, who he already knows. We'll get back to that in a minute. And he was chatting it up with former teammate George Fant. Now, quick note from yesterday, he is exclusively a left tackle. Normally, when tackles have been around this long, they found themselves at both sides of the line at one point or the other. But George Fant has been exclusively a left tackle in his career, and that's fine. The Jets don't need a swing tackle per se. Sure, versatility is always nice, but what they need is a third quality starting tackle. That's what they need, because George Fant and Mekhi Becton can both play right tackle and left tackle. So say, for instance, if Mekhi Becton's at right tackle, if he has to miss a game, you swing George Fant over to right tackle and you plug in Duane Brown at left tackle and you just keep on moving. And those are two tackles that you can win with. So that's no problem there. Now, since the Jets missed out on Riley Reiff, their need for a tackle has also increased. Mekhi Becton showing up rocking a knee brace. George Fant's been limited in practice. Max Mitchell limped off. He should be fine. Connor McDermott was helped off yesterday. We don't know if he's going to be fine. So offensive tackle is the position the Jets are hurting at the most. Duane Brown also has a relationship with our head coach back from their Houston days, which I just found out. Shout out to Paul Boy Green for cutting up the clip. Here's our head coach on Duane Brown.
Yeah, you can never have enough good O-linemen. You just can't, especially with the type of offense that we play and all that. But like I said, anytime you have a chance to add a quality player at any position, you're going to listen, you're going to look, and you're going to try to see how it fits.
We were keeping an eye on him. It looked like I think you were over there at one point. Rex, Joe, Woody was over there. George. I mean, is there anything else you can do to convince him to come here?
No, it's, you know what, he's such an established man. There's history, obviously. I was there as a little QC in Houston when we drafted him, and so I have a history with Duane. He's a phenomenal man, and I was about to say young man, but he's a phenomenal man. But he is a massive human being. You guys saw him, but. No, it's nothing more than just paying respect to a man who's done unbelievable things in this league. Yeah,
So now, if he is signed, what does it mean for the present and the future of this team at tackle? Initially, I was like, okay, backup tackle, we need one of those, and I got some pushback on that. And then the sentiment around the Jet social media was like, no, this guy's a starter. This guy's going to come in and compete with George Fant for the starting left tackle job. And okay, so I don't think that the Jets, look, we would need a good backup tackle regardless. However, the Jets' interest in a possibly backup tackle who was just a Pro Bowler last year and as accomplished as Duane Brown, I don't think that's an indictment on the talent level at our offensive tackles in Fant and Becton. Those two, when good to go, can get it done, absolutely. But I think we can see it as maybe a little bit of a cautionary flag on the health status of our two tackles, both guys who are coming off of knee injuries and have been a little limited or discomforted in practice so far. I think that's fair to say. If Mekhi Becton and George Fant both had a clean bill of health coming off of last season, would we be seeking maybe a cheaper alternative at tackle? And that's a fair point. Now, between Fant and Duane Brown, it's not a crazy take that a guy who did just make the Pro Bowl last year could come in and usurp George Fant as the starting tackle. But I would give the nod to Fant. I would. Now, if we look at their last year, George Fant gave up 1 sack and committed 4 penalties. And people say, if you watch the film, he gave up more than that. Well, okay, maybe you could say the same for other tackles. I'm just giving the numbers that are provided to us. Duane Brown last year gave up 8 sacks and committed 5 penalties. And Duane Brown was elite in 2020. The Pro Bowl is kind of just a popularity contest, so it doesn't mean too much to me. So Duane Brown is more accomplished than George Fant for sure. But George Fant going from 29 to 30, giving up 1 sack last year. And then we have Duane Brown going from 36 soon to be 37, giving up 8 sacks last year. And being that George Fant, does already have a year with this team and he's been in camp, I would definitely give the leg up to George Fant at the left tackle position. He was just objectively better in pass pro last year than Duane Brown was. Duane Brown is a better run blocker than George Fant. That is true. And on George Fant, there's a couple of I don't want to say narratives because there is some truth to them, but I'll say perspectives on George Fant that I just see differently than some other Jets fans. Now, number one, you might say Duane Brown faced tougher competition out there in the NFC West in terms of edge rushers, and you say George Fant, faced lackluster edge rushers last year. He just faced who was out there. He can't control that. He just lined up who the other team was rolling out there on the edge, and he held up really well. And then there's this other perspective that says, Mekhi Becton's being forced to move to right tackle because George Fant stinks at right tackle. Well, hold on a minute. George Fant, went out there, competed last year, won the right tackle job. Mekhi Becton goes down. They ask him to move to left tackle. He does it, and he plays the best pass protecting season that a Jets left tackle has since DeBrickashaw Ferguson retired. And name me someone between 2014 and now who's done better at left tackle than George Fant did last year for the Jets. So that's his fault now. He fills in for an injury and plays really well. And now that's a problem. Okay, so what? So he's better at a left tackle. We're not saying that about Laken Tomlinson and ABT. We're not saying ABT has to move guard spots because of Laken Tomlinson. No, we're just excited that we have two good guards, and we should be excited that we have two good tackles, and George Fant is one of those tackles. Now, kind of along that same note, I don't know that George Fant thinks at right tackle. George Fant may have just had his breakout season this year at right tackle or left tackle. This is a guy who, in college, he's more noted for what he accomplished on the basketball court than the football field. He didn't have a ton of starts before he came to the Jets, and now this year was his first year in this new zone blocking scheme that is a good fit for his athleticism. So even, coming on 30 years old, he's young in terms of football years, and maybe just a late bloomer in the sport, and last year was the year he was going to pop regardless. So that's an optimistic perspective, but I think there is some evidence that tells us that. So that's my take on George Fant. I think we should be a little bit more appreciative to a guy who, if you really think about it last year, if you consider positional value, games played, and level of play, did we have a more valuable offensive player than George Fant last year? We played 4 different quarterbacks. Half our receivers missed half the season. Michael Carter went down with an injury. AVT wore his lumps in the beginning of the year. George Fant was the most valuable New York Jet on the offensive side of the football last year. Now, so I think I would give the nod to him over Duane Brown to start this year. Now, the future of the Jets tackle position, this is where it gets kind of murky because the fan in me says extend George Fant, and that's peace of mind, right? That's stability. Okay, we're going to have Becton and Fant, bookend tackles for the remainder of Zach Wilson's rookie contract. Beautiful. Check it off the list and now go start addressing your other needs. But then there is the GM in me that looks at maybe the limited sample size. And then that also wonders, okay, is Mekhi Becton just getting back, in football shape, and he hasn't played in a year, and we're making sure the knee's good at right tackle? Then in 2023, is Mekhi Becton ready to be what we maybe drafted him to be, and that is a franchise left tackle? So who could be that for the next 10 years? And then furthermore, Max Mitchell in 2023, could he be a guy who can maybe compete to win the right tackle job? Then you have 2 tackles on rookie contracts, much more efficient. I don't know. So that's where, to me, there's a lot of flux. And when we're in flux, maybe we don't want to buy. Maybe we want to lease. So even though I really like George Fant, and he's also just a really easy guy to root for, he's a good leader, I think that the Jets might be in just a wait-and-see mode this year with Fant, but I do think he starts at left tackle over Duane Brown. Hey, offensive lineman, that's not as fun as wide receiver. We got a really good one with the 10th overall pick. Here is how the Jets should utilize him in the playbook this year. That's Garrett Wilson. Check that out down below. Subscribe if you are new, and we will talk ball very soon.